everybody, and welcome to another episode of And Just Like That, We Found Therapy. I have with me here today Justin Duwe. He has almost 20 years experience, and he specializes in a lot of things, relationships, identity, existential crisis, and he treats individuals and couples, and I have worked with him in the past, and he is the best. Welcome, Justin. How are you? Welcome.
Thank you for that introduction. I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Today we're here to discuss season 2, episode 2 of Sex and the City, The Awful Truth. And Justin
My
was
favorite
just,
episode.
yes, it's a good one. So as per usual, I'll talk a bit about the episode, scene by scene-ish, and I'll prompt some questions to you. But basically in this episode, we get introduced to Susan Sharon. Sorry, I struggle with my S's sometimes. Who is this cashmere sales representative that is friends with Carrie until she married a very mean man. And they go back to Susan's place. And because it's about to be Carrie's birthday, Susan gives her a gift, and it's a cashmere scarf. And Susan's husband wakes up and he makes a scene. And Carrie has to leave running. And then when she gets home, Susan has called her, and Susan asks her, do you think I should leave him, basically? And Carrie says, well, if things haven't changed, if it's always like this and you're not happy, life's too short, do it. Fast forward to the girls having brunch and everybody saying like, ugh, you stepped on a pile of crap because you never want to be the friend that says, leave your husband, because if she leaves him, then, she left him because of you. And if she doesn't leave him, she'll always know that you wanted her to leave him. Do you agree with that advice from the girls?
No, it's a case by case basis. I think one of the surprising things that clients learn when they're first coming into couples counseling, or even individual therapy, but mainly couples counseling, is my goal isn't always about keeping people together. People usually come at 3 different phases of the relationship. We want to improve the relationship. I don't know if there's anything here to salvage, or we need to end.
Yeah.
And often people aren't able to actually articulate, I don't want this.
Yeah.
And they're waiting for somebody on the outside who can see it's obviously dysfunctional, people are suffering. And then when a stranger says, I've done everything that we can do, this isn't working, it's not ethical, I think you should break up. Often one person gets offended, usually the other person usually thanks me.
I
So,
understand, but when you're a friend, I agree. Like, I have this rule of thumb that if somebody asks me for my opinion and they're still not married and nobody's safety is at stake, I always keep my opinion to myself. I don't want to say, no, I think your husband is a dick and you should get divorced. If somebody asks me when they're dating somebody and it's early stages or they're about to make a big decision, what do you think? Then I'll say. But you can be the therapist that says you should break up or you should separate or you should divorce, but you cannot be the friend that says
of course
you
you
should get
can.
divorced. I
Well,
mean, you
what type of a
can.
friend would you be? What type of a friend would you be if you saw somebody making a terrible mistake? If they were in a relationship with somebody who was abusive, what, you're just supposed to sit there and say nothing? That's a shitty friend.
No, that's why I said if everybody's safety, like if it's just a matter of a preference, I keep my mouth shut if they're married.
Preference in what? Like fruit
If it's
flavored
like,
drinks on
well,
the beach?
I think you could do better. Like then sure, like I can say that before they're married and I'm asked for my opinion, but not once they're married, potentially
But in
baby
the
on the way.
episode, Carrie was being asked to pass judgment on a situation which, if you actually think about it, and I work with a lot of men and women in finance, they're tired, they're stressed out, and they need their peace and quiet. And so I think he was painted in a bad light. If we could get to know his character a little bit more, he probably has the weight of the world on his shoulders, and a wife who has an she bought a 900, this was way back in the 90s. She bought a $900 scarf. What would that be today? It's not a small
$2,000.
purchase.
Yeah.
She's got good taste. It's expensive taste. He earns well, but there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that. So is he just a dick? No, he's not just a dick. He's a man that has a lot of responsibilities and a lot of stress and a very difficult job, and probably could use some understanding and support just like she could also. So unless you know this friend really, really well, probably best to zip it. But if you've got legitimate concerns, you see something abusive, I've got another new case where a friend found her friend's husband on Field,
What
this
is
dating
Field?
app.
Is it
It's
like
an app for dating people who are open-minded and looking for a sort of a
it's not a
citizenship
dating.
or
It's not a
well,
dating app, it's a sex
you
app.
can, it's a
It's a
sex
hookup.
app, but you could
Yeah.
use it for dating. You can use a
Okay.
hammer to build a house. You can use a hammer to bludgeon someone with. It's a tool. How you use it is up to your discretion. But that was one where her friend called and said, look, there's something, it's a little awkward to tell you, but I found your husband on this app. Don't ask me why I'm there, but I found him there.
Did the wife know?
So no, this is the second time that happened.
Yikes.
And that's not an uncommon thing. People think that they're being really sneaky and really clever, and they're putting all sorts of public information, their pictures out there on these sex apps or dating apps, and they get caught. They get caught by friends, they get caught by family members, and, if we're following what the girls are saying in the show, don't say anything. But then, how are you going to feel when you're over at their house, hanging out, having a drink? It's just awkward. I think it's disrespectful. I think if you know something and you've got evidence, I think you have a responsibility if you actually love that person to say something.
Yeah. But I find really interesting that in this conversation, obviously Samantha says, listen, the most successful relationships I know out there are based on lies and a mutually accepted delusion or something like that. Because at this stage, she's still in a relationship where she's deeply unsatisfied sexually and she cannot say anything about it. Obviously, Charlotte gives in her 2 cents saying like, I think in an intimate relationship you owe it to your partner to always say the truth and what's on your mind. What do you think about those 2 points of view?
Well, there's three kind of topics there, but extreme honesty, no, not a fan of that. I don't think that helps. Do I look fat in this? Yeah, you do. Uh, that's not going to
No.
go down well, ever. Could you find a more tactful way of saying it? I think you have recently put on some weight. Maybe this might be more flattering, or maybe we can start going to the gym together. There are ways in which you can talk about things which are delicate, in particular sexual things like satisfaction and body odors and hygiene and size and orgasm frequency, etc. So she could have said it in, I think, a more tactful way. But the truth is that we need a private space. I call it a sense of mindness. This is my coffee shop, my group of friends, my secrets, my thoughts that you're not privy to.
Yeah.
And if I do share all that with you, I lose a sense of self. And in order to have a relationship, you have to have two people to go through a process of relating. And if there's that enmeshment where there are no secrets, this radical honesty, I'm telling you absolutely everything, and the door on the bathroom is usually open in that type of a relationship also, what you typically see is a lack of desire
Hmm.
because there's no mystery.
Yeah.
In order to have desire, you have to have mystery. So a degree of privacy, doors being closed, secrets is necessary, but to the point where you're having, like I said earlier with this other case, where you're cheating on your spouse. No, that's not what I'm talking about.
Okay, so no matter how long you're with someone, it's important to try to keep a bit of mystery alive to make sure
For
that
sure.
desire or that spark doesn't
And
die.
always close the bathroom door and never go number two in front of your partner. Number one, maybe there's a time and a place, but definitely not number two. not unless you're
Okay.
terribly ill.
Okay, good to know. No
Well, it comes
enemas
up.
in front of partners.
Well, a lot of times you'll see people, you can find it on Instagram, have a look later, where it's like hashtag couples goals, so intimate, and they're passing each other a loo roll and having a bag of crisps, having a conversation with somebody who's going to the bathroom. And then they
No.
wonder why they're not having much of a sex life. Well, they're being disgusting in front of each other. You're not supposed to do that. That's not a goal that couples are supposed to work towards. You need to keep it classy.
Okay. So that's good advice. Then I think we get a glimpse into the girls' relationships in this episode where they are trying to see whether or not they should open their mouth or not. So I think Charlotte has decided that she gives up on all men and she's just gotten a dog named Henry and she can talk to him about anything and he is perfect at this stage. And then Samantha will not say to James, I cannot deal with your shortcomings. And Miranda's dating this guy that she met at a Chinese buffet who's very into dirty talk during sex. And as a lawyer, she's like, I do not want sex to be a time to talk. I really appreciate if it's a time to shut up. What do you think about those three in this scene? What do you think about Charlotte giving up on men and getting a dog?
Perhaps not everybody's fit for a relationship.
Perhaps.
I think that's a reality that some people might need to consider. If you're tired of being alone and you're tired of being disappointed and you're tired of just being tired, then yeah, maybe getting a pet or trying to find companionship in other forms is not a bad idea. That's not failure. It's
Okay.
resolving an issue. But to expect that that dog is going to give you everything the human partner would, you're going to be just as disappointed.
Yeah. And
Maybe,
she is
you know.
eventually.
Well, yeah. Well, yes, that was an inevitability. And I do think one of the sort of common presentations that people really struggle with without realizing that they're struggling with it is their subjective pursuit of perfectionism. They never want to feel alone, or disappointed, or upset, or hurt, or isolated, or forgotten, or devalued. And because we're having typically relationships with other human beings, that's an inevitability. Are there degrees where that becomes clinically significant or problematic? Of course. But is some of those experiences, albeit very negative, normal and even a normal part of a healthy relationship? Absolutely. So if you need to sit out for a period of time and take a break and assess what you want and where you're going and what your needs are, I think that's totally fine to do.
Okay. What about Miranda's conundrum with whether or not she should be trying to meet her partner halfway?
That one I think is a little bit more complicated. There are requests that people make in relationships, in their sex lives, which I think are really challenging for a lot of people. I don't want to put that there. I don't want to put that here. I wouldn't do it in that way or with those people. I would never wear that. Who do you think I am? I think it's interesting how people respond to those requests. It says something about the individual who's making the request, of course, but then there's also something about us in our own reaction. And both things need to be understood and looked at. I think that, a lot of life is about discovering different parts of ourselves that we didn't know that we had. If we allow ourselves to be open-minded, now there are limits to that,
Mm-hmm.
not suggesting being reckless, but if the request seems reasonable, where's the
Yeah,
harm
I
in
just
trying?
feel like women are a lot more guarded about asking for things or bringing things into a relationship. And I was surprised to see that this man felt completely comfortable at bringing this when they're, potentially having known each other for less than a week and slept together a handful of times. Um, I am a bit jealous of how adequate men feel about whatever it is that they want to have in a relationship. And I feel like women is like, oh, will they like it? Will this be okay? Is this likable? What do you think about that?
You find exceptions to what you just said in both men and women, and even in the show, Samantha would be the exception to what you're talking about. Certainly, she's unapologetic with what she wants and definitely goes after it. So that might be maybe something that some people experience, but not across the board, just based upon their gender or sexuality. I think it's more about our personal experience and our expectations. In the episode, Miranda allows herself to start to speak and say things that she's not used to saying. And then she discovers this part of herself where she actually is quite comfortable and feels, I think, rather emboldened or empowered. And then she says something without realizing that that was a taboo, and it kind of breaks the energy of that sexual experience. So on one hand, what she actually talks about, sticking her finger in his ass, and actually we're led to believe that she did that, and that
Yeah.
she's with her girlfriend saying that, oh, I'm this very conservative lawyer, I couldn't possibly do that. But then behind the scenes, she's putting her finger somewhere, which a lot of people would find a little bit edgy, perhaps. There's a bit of a contradiction, but I think there's a bit of a contradiction within all of us. And if
Yeah.
we look into it, I think often if we allow ourselves to be surprised, we discover parts of ourselves that are actually quite enjoyable or fascinating or make us unique, maybe even proud.
Okay. So after this scene, I think, we get Carrie with Susan doing the shopping, and Susan seems to be super grateful to Carrie. Like, you have no
Hold on.
idea.
You forgot about our friend Samantha and the shortcoming.
Oh yeah. So what
And
about
I
that?
think it's even in the way in which you talked about it, as opposed to saying small penis, you mentioned shortcoming.
Yes.
What's wrong with saying small penis? It is what it is.
It is. I guess it's all relative. I haven't seen it. I was just
Fair
trying to
point.
be, yeah.
But that's also relevant in the episode. The audience, we don't know, is it an issue with girth? Is it an issue with length? Is it an issue with both? We don't know. And so when they actually go and speak with a couples counselor and a sex therapist, there's a lot of information which is missing. And it came up right at the end, and therapists call that the doorknob moment. That absolutely exists. That's happened in quite a few of my consultations throughout the
The
years.
doorknob moment?
The doorknob moment or the door handle moment. You'll be right at the end of the session, getting ready to log off if it's online or in person. They're walking towards the door, and
And they
it's,
drop a
oh, by
bomb?
the way, oh yeah, it's always a bomb. Oh, my mom has cancer. I tried to kill myself last night. I'm thinking about getting a tattoo on my forehead. It's something significant
Yes.
right at that point. And that's what you see in the episode. It's really difficult, but they say it at that point because they're literally on their way out. So I'm going to drop this here and you can deal with it and I'll run away. She obviously had a lot of difficulty trying to say something which actually you would understand is probably going to cause a great deal of upset. But the truth be told, every man has measured his unit. He knows how big he is in metric and in imperial. And so when she said it to him and he got really defensive around it, he probably has suspected for a while that he might be smaller than average. That's the
Yeah.
reality that a lot of men have. I write about that in my book, The Penis Manual.
The
There
penis
are
manual?
yes, it's available on Amazon.
I will pop that in the show notes. I did not know that this was title under your belt.
Yes, I have two books.
I know
Both
about the other
pertain to
one.
sex. Yeah, but the second book I published is called The Penis Manual, a men's guide to sexual health and understanding the penis. And I talk about different types of treatments that can be done. You can increase girth, and there are procedures available in America where you can increase length. There are risks, and there can be some, very undesirable side effects. But there are things that people can do. There are different types of sex toys that you can use to increase girth and length also that a man can wear if there's an issue with size. The question, does size matter? I'm going to say yes.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it also depends. To Samantha, it obviously matters. Like, to me, this relationship has been already a season and a half too long. She is a woman that has a very strong sexual appetite. She's not fulfilled in that aspect of this relationship, and yet here we are.
Well, hold on a second. About her character, she's somebody who we would say has an avoidant attachment style. And you just said, she's been in this relationship too long. It's one of the fewer relationships, apart maybe from Richard, which I don't know what season he appears in, where she actually creates an emotional bond with one of her sexual partners. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, there's a roadblock, and as opposed to working on that issue, which is, I would say, more common than I think most people would like to admit or think, but no relationship is perfect. She could have been encouraged to work on that in the relationship, and who knows, maybe it would have been her wedding that we would have been watching later, as opposed to her being out there going from relationship to relationship.
Yeah. Ugh, okay. So the next scene I do think is where Susan is tremendously grateful to Carrie. They are shopping and she's like, honestly, Carrie, thank you so much. I can't believe I've been this long with this man. I have to say, like, I started opening up about everything. So then he started saying all this stuff to me and I'm just so grateful. And Carrie's like, okay, so what are you going to do now? And she's like, oh, can I stay with you tonight? So the, you know, secondary or like butterfly effect of her opening her mouth about what she thought about her friend's relationship is already taking a direct impact in Carrie's life. And she's gonna have to host her friend because obviously, she was the one that said, I, you know, I think you should break up. So, other than that, I think that the girls go to visit Henry and Charlotte is trying to explain to Susan, like, he's the best and blah, blah, blah. And I think Carrie's voiceover is saying, in true to form, Henry was already falling low of expectations. He was like self involved and selfish and non-consistent and blah, blah, blah. And I think Susan is just still obsessed with her husband. They go back to Carrie's apartment and then we discover that it's Carrie's birthday. She gets awakened by the doorbell and it's a beautiful bouquet of red roses from Mr. Big. And then we fast forward into the girls at brunch and Carrie is like, what does this mean? And I think the card said something super cool like, happy birthday, best wishes. It's big. What do
Cold.
you best wishes?
Cold would be not getting anything at all. That's at least warm.
I think cold means I respect your boundaries. Sending red roses. Okay, like I need to unpack this with you. Red
But
roses do mean love. Like if it's friendship, I think they're supposed to be yellow or white.
it's supposed to be yellow, I believe. But we're also talking about something which I do wonder how many people actually take the time to look at the significance. If we had a random group of 10 people and asked them what do they think it means, I don't think many people would actually understand that there is a significance to colors of flowers. And
But come on, how lazy can you be that like you don't know that red roses are
it's not always
lovey-dovey?
about laziness. Sometimes it's about education. It's about interest. It's about exposure.
Okay, so then here the debate sparks, and I think Samantha and
Mhm.
Miranda are very much like, fuck him. Like, he hurt you, he's out of the picture, roses or not roses. This doesn't mean anything. Let's just move on. and, celebrate your birthday. And then Charlotte is like, no, this is the big gesture. This is where he tries to get her back and blah, blah, blah. And I do think Carrie is also like, if this is a grand gesture, like, fuck that. Like, this is not the grand gesture. This is the meh gesture. And I think Charlotte says, like, oh, poor guy. Like, now we are going to chastise him because he's sending flowers. So do you side with Charlotte here? I do think it's a bit of a
Yeah.
not you side with
This
Charlotte
time, this time, yeah, I normally don't, but yeah, this time I do because why are we criticizing flowers?
because, and I'm gonna go to the next scene. Carrie's just like, okay, I guess the bad thing about this is if I'm ungrateful and I don't say thank you. So she gives him a call and she says, hey, thank you about the flowers. And Mr. Big is a bit of a dig and is like, well, my assistant had it on her calendar. So then Carrie's like, okay, so then I need to thank your assistant. And he was like, no, I mean, I told her to send the flowers, but she prompted that. And this conversation is like the usual awkward conversation after you break up with someone. It's been a while that you haven't talked and you don't know where you
Yeah,
stand.
she's expecting too much again from a busy man who's successful. That's not unusual at all for Carrie or for men who are very busy and women who are very busy to have their PAs buy gifts and do things to aid the relationship. You can't be in two places at the same time. And Carrie gets bent out of shape that he didn't go out of his way to buy flowers and send to her and write something in his own blood. Again, she's expecting way too much from relationships, which is why she's terribly disappointed and single most of the time.
Okay. I think it was being kind of standoffish, unnecessarily so. Like, at least own up to it. Like, yes, I sent you flowers, happy birthday, how are you gonna celebrate it? Like, he didn't have to say, like, well, my assistant did that.
But that doesn't make him a dick because he's being honest. You just asked earlier in the episode about where's the place for honesty and is there room for a healthy level of deceit or mystery? And I just say, yes, I do think that there is. But that comment about, oh, my secretary sent it or my assistant sent it, I can't remember which professional title they have, in and of itself isn't a bad thing. And again, the question I asked earlier, well, why are we criticizing him for sending flowers? He sent the flowers, he paid for it, and it's still not enough. It has to be made into a problem. Not everything needs to be a problem.
Fine. Then let's celebrate it. I do feel for Carrie because then she feels stuck. And I could have seen myself stuck in the same conversation where I think he asks, like, what are you going to get up to on the big day? And she says, I am, Stanford has booked this place at Layla, this Moroccan place, you should come. And then Mr. Big says, well, I already have plans, but I guess I could move some things around. I may bring someone. And then Carrie handles it as a champion as she can. And she's just like, okay, well, then you come and you bring that person and I'll see you then.
I wouldn't say a champion. She's getting, 3 sheets to the wind. She got absolutely hammered at that event.
Well, so then they go to Layla and the girls are there, Stanford's there, Susan's there, and Carrie's getting drunk because I think she's so nervous about seeing her ex with his new date. Which, honestly, if he had really brought a date, I would have been like, whoa, dude, you really have balls of steel. Like, that's not
Well, maybe
appropriate.
maybe he does, but she invited him and their exes, so he is allowed to move on with his life.
Yeah, but
She
there's
could
kind
have
of like a
said, "Oh,
protocol.
sorry, no plus ones." No, there's no protocol.
There's manners.
Well,
I
then
do
if you
think
don't want someone to come, don't invite them.
agreed.
But she
Anyway,
invited him, and he said, "I'm going to bring someone." I think he even asked her if she would mind, and she said no.
ish. I think she was stuck
Ish.
between between a rock and a hard place. It was
Well, she put
very,
herself between the rock and the hard place.
yes, she did. I
She
just
did.
think that if
Hmm.
he's gonna be the one disattached and with less feelings, he could have been the one to say like, okay, let me see. And actually don't say like, I'm gonna bring, anyway, this is obviously for script purposes. He could have said like, I'm bringing my friend Jack, you actually met him.
Yeah, he could have said that, but she also could, remember the type of man that he is and not be surprised that he could potentially bring another woman. He's successful, he's tall, he's handsome, he's got great eyebrows. The probability that he's dating somebody attractive is almost a given. So yeah, I can appreciate it's an awkward situation for her, but again, she got to know the man and still is expecting him to be a different version. Mr. Big has always been Mr. Big and theoretically was up until the very end.
Okay, so then Mr. Big shows up with his friend, and Carrie is too drunk to hide the fact that she's very relieved. And here I have two questions. Because Mr. Big, I think, overstays his welcome. He does say, I can't stay for too long, and then he does stay for a lap dance and many drinks.
Yeah.
Did you feel that it was inappropriate of him to stay that long and entertain the belly dancers as much as he did?
Staying that long, no. He was invited to the party, and it would be rude to say, oh, it'd be great if you come, but you're only allowed to say for one drink and then you have to go.
Yeah.
People change their mind. So he was setting expectations. Look, I've got another commitment, but I'll see if I can drop by. He did go out of his way. He did show up. He did let her know that he was going to bring somebody, albeit I agree he could have been, he could have colored in the details for sure. And he stayed. He changed his mind. He had a few drinks. Fine. The bit that I took issue with was about, putting money in the women's clothing when they were dancing. Okay, fine. So you're tipping. Okay. But I don't know if it's per se that sort of an environment. That would be more of a gentleman's club sort of a thing. But did you need to do it in front of Carrie? No. But is that very much his character? Absolutely. Because it's always been about his lack of emotional sensitivity and his unavailability and, true to character. He sticks with that.
So
The
he's
acting in the show,
consistent.
I think, is actually quite good. And, the cashmere woman earlier, when she was shopping, I think her role is terribly underrated because the way in which the actress actually commits to the sort of frantic, nervous energy while she's looking at things and her life is in disarray, excuse me. That's an actress who did some really good training and actually really thought about what I actually be feeling if I was going through this. I think her role was grossly underrated, but I think, what's
I mean, he
Mr.
gets,
Big's name? Chris Knopf? Isn't that his
yeah,
real name?
yes.
Yeah, I think he did a great job. In, I think you're just going to have to let that beat out just off the microphone. It's cute now.
Yes.
But he commits to his role. And so Mr. Big is Mr. Big in that episode. He could have been more sensitive. If he was more sensitive, he wouldn't have been Mr. Big.
I agree. I have to agree. But then, so Susan, who does do a great job, and I do think she was appreciated for that because she got invited to reappear in And Just Like That, and she looks amazing in And Just Like That.
Mm.
I have this question for you because I think that, in the first few days after separating from her husband, she is in this euphoria thing where she's super grateful and delusional. And I think she's trying to test the waters by hitting on Mr. Big's friend, Jack. And he is
No,
an
she could have done
absolute,
better.
he's an absolute dick to her. And I think
He's honest, and he was probably
yeah,
also
but
drunk.
he was just like, do you ever just shut up? And because of that, she kind of reevaluates what she had home. What do you think of those couples that maybe they're not meant to be, but once they see that it's very cold outside, they go back to the bat they know? Um,
Are you asking me to pass judgment on that type of a situation?
um, yes.
It's not my place to judge. If they leave the relationship for a period of time and are able to negotiate some sort of reconciliation, who are we to judge? We don't know what takes place behind closed doors or what agreements they might have made.
I think it's so sad. I'd be offended if I were that man to be like, okay, you only want me because whatever's out there is even worse.
But that's a projection. You don't know that that was that simple. She did say when they were looking at Henry at Charlotte's place, well, you don't know him like I do. You know, he's actually a sweet guy. So
Yeah.
yeah, they definitely show him being quite angry and, tired and irritable. But we're also led to believe that there's more to his character than the audience is actually allowed to see. And the same is true for, couples who are arguing or they split up very publicly, celebrities, and then they get back together. We don't know what happens behind closed doors. So in some excuse me, would that be sad? Yes. Absolutely. In other circumstances, like, oh, for example, Rihanna and Chris Brown, would that, was very publicly abusive, very dysfunctional. That was sad. Round and round and round again. That was ridiculous. But other couples separating, getting back together again, the truth is we'll never know what actually happens behind closed doors. So I think we should be a little bit more cautious with our judgment.
Okay. Fair enough. Okay, and then lastly, I think,
Mhm.
the birthday party gets to an end and Carrie's talking about how it's past midnight and it's still just the two of them, Mr. Big and her, walking home. And Mr. Big asks her if he can give her a lift or give her money, like a cab fare or something. And she says no, he leaves. And she says that the only thing she couldn't say out loud to him was the fact that she was not over him. What do you think is maybe the gold standard to navigating after you break up with someone and you're not over them? So maybe we can actually jumpstart into the last bit of my episodes where I asked you your advice to the girls. What would your
Well, hold
advice
on.
be? What would
I
your
got
advice
something.
Yes. What would your advice be to Carrie, knowing that she's still not over Mr. Big and, she's invited him to her birthday party. She spent most of her birthday with him and ended up the night with him.
I live in Brazil, and to help to improve my Portuguese, I will watch programs in English, but I'll have it subtitled in Portuguese and read along. Usually I'm focused more on the Portuguese than listening to the English. And that last part of the show, and I think it's interesting, just the difference in language. It was written, eu não esqueci ainda de você. I haven't forgotten about you.
Yeah.
And in English, it's, I haven't gotten over you.
Yeah.
And so when people are trying to get over a relationship, often they are trying to forget. And they think that, oh, somehow I'm going to be able to not recall short-term and long-term memory, and that's somehow healing. If you ever have a situation where you cannot recall short-term or long-term memory, you have a medical issue that needs to be attended to by a neurologist. You've been concussed, you've been lobotomized, there's a blood flow issue to your brain, there's some sort of a tumor or a disease of the brain. All of those phenomena would impair your brain's ability to recall memory. So getting over someone is learning how to recall, to make space, and to move forward. It's not about forgetting.
Yeah.
We don't ever really get over somebody, but we move forward and we make space for novelty and new adventures. So what would I say to Carrie? Something rather similar to what I just said to you. It's about making space and understanding that what you're working towards isn't amnesia, but it's about trying to figure out what your ex was trying to teach you, because we
Yeah.
learn things from relationships, what was good in that relationship that you can carry forward, and to think about what you did not receive in that relationship and maybe what you need to revise in terms of your standards moving forward.
Okay.
It would also be about looking at, because I don't think that there are many episodes in the season where there is a romantic potential that she actually turns down, where she actually thinks about, okay, this guy's hitting on me. What about this? What about that? And then she just flat out rejects them. She usually explores the opportunity. And
Mm-hmm.
that's part of what the episode's centering around. And a lot of people, when there is an opportunity to have a connection, if it doesn't happen very often, often they'll kind of rush into it without thinking about, well, what are my needs? And are they actually at the standard that I need? The fear that they'll never find somebody causes a lot of people to rush in. And I think the show would have been a little bit more interesting had she have reflected a little bit more about her needs and then gone on dates with men that actually met her standards, as
Yeah.
opposed to just taking whatever opportunity that came her way, largely.
I mean, it made a better column, apparently. Um, okay, what would you have told Samantha, who is obviously not able to tell her partner that she's not satisfied, so she gets dragged into Misi author office for couples therapy, and they have that door knock moment where she's like, I could not do this. How, if she was maybe seeing you as a therapist alone, how would you have asked her to navigate that?
So I would have asked her exactly what the problem was, if it was length or girth or both. And also, cracks me up every single time the therapist was, I hear that, or I totally understand that. Uh, because it is a relatable issue. I
Yeah.
think a lot of times clients think that their therapists are this sort of other sort of species or have never been through the issue itself or wouldn't actually understand what it's like. But often when I'm speaking with my clients, I relate very deeply to what they're going through. Sometimes it's, it was just happening before I logged on with them. And so we're all human at the end of the day. And so I like that moment of identifying and sharing that issue where, yeah, of course it's an issue for you. It's an issue, but how are you going to bring it up? Do you
Yes.
actually want this relationship? You are not going to be able to find a way to say your penis is too small and I'm not getting sexual satisfaction that I would like with you in a way where it's not going to cause a degree of emotional impact in your partner. No, men and women both want to know that they're providing pleasure in whatever way, shape, or form to their sexual partner. And if you hear that actually I'm just satisfied, I feel like there's something missing, that is going to have an impact. It's going to weigh heavily on that person. And you can package it in different ways where you can try and be as kind as you can be. But fundamentally, if you have something about the odor or there's something about technique or there's something about the physiology which isn't working, you have to say it. I call it the Rumpelstiltskin effect. When you call something out by its name, you can take away its power, and then you're in a position where you can actually do something with it. So fundamentally, we don't know what happens after. I mean, he storms out of the room. Maybe they had a telephone call later and talked about, hey, it's not going to work. Let's just call it a day. That might have been true at that point because a lot of the procedures today weren't available, as what was it, 30 years ago?
Yeah.
No. So medicine is advanced. There are treatments available today, and I would go through those different options with her. I was speaking about something rather similar last night with another client that I've known for a very long time. And in order to make their sexual relationship work, it is about seeing a urologist and having a surgery in order to make it viable. And it's quite complicated, but these are realities that a lot of couples have to navigate. And so dancing around the issue perpetuates the issue. I teach all my clients, what we do not confront, we perpetuate. And either you want the relationship to work or you're driving in a direction where you're going to be dissatisfied and unhappy, and there would be more insecurity within the relationship. So fundamentally, it's a simple question, but it is probably the hardest question we have to answer in lifetime. What do you want?
Yeah.
And how do I go about doing that?
Would you have had any tips for her on how to approach it with James?
Is that James? Is his name?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Timing is really important. A lot of people will time things very, very poorly. It's not unusual that couples will talk about serious issues during sex, not the right time. They'll talk about it right before bed, getting into bed. That happens all the time in couples counseling, and it always kicks off an argument because people are tired at the end of the day and they need to wake up and they're trying to plan things. And then partner says something once the lights turn off. Oh yeah, your mother's visiting and I think she's terrible. Obviously that's not going to go down well. That's not the time to talk about it in that moment. So I
Yeah.
think closed spaces, cars, planes, boats, not a good venue for a serious conversation. In front of friends and family, no. In public, no. On your way to the bathroom, not a good time to have a conversation with somebody. So if we put some common sense into when we're going to have a conversation, but then it's also about the language that we use. What I see a lot of are people who are trying to say something and then they think that they heard it correctly and they'll make an assumption and they'll walk away. Whereas often, if they were to ask further questions around, okay, this is what I heard you say. If you were in my position, how would you understand that? One of them is around desire. I'm not feeling like sex recently. And, Samantha says that.
Yeah.
I haven't been feeling it. That could mean all sorts of things. So if you were in my position, Samantha, how would you understand this? Well, it's not you, it's me. Okay, but what would you do if you were in my position? Well, a lot of men and women, if they were to hear that, which is the thing, well, there is something wrong with me. The first way we have to understand problems or situations in our life is to make it about ourselves. It's called egocentric thinking. That's how children think. And there was a
Yeah.
point when we were all children. So that's the first way that we have to understand things. But in adulthood, we need to develop different types of skills. And one of them that we should utilize a little bit more is objectivity. Make it less about us and more about other possibilities. Because very frequently, when you actually talk to people about difficult circumstances, particularly their sex lives, what you'll hear, it really isn't about the partner. It's about, I feel my lady looks funny. I feel my boat in a funny way. I'm worried that I'm not doing this appropriately. I'm worried that I'm not providing enough pleasure. What happens if I fail? There's all sorts of different reasons why people have a headache.
Mm-hmm.
Don't just leave it to interpretation. Get more curious and ask questions.
Okay. And then lastly, I think we covered Charlotte maybe replacing love with Henry for a moment and Miranda having to speak out about in bed. So maybe now what would you tell Susan, who decides to rekindle things with her husband through finding a common enemy who is Henry, Charlotte's dog?
It's also common love, not
You
just a
love that?
common enemy.
Yeah.
Well, because the final scenes watching them is, Henry on top of them and they're cuddled on the couch and they look quite content, at least from my point of view when I watched the episode.
Yeah.
But, you know, I call it getting to know you. It's really surprising how often couples will rehash the same arguments again and again and again when they know better. You know that your partner doesn't like this brand of toilet roll. Why did you buy it?
Yeah.
You know that they need to go to bed because they have to wake up early. Her husband has to wake up early for the London trading floor and the markets. Why are you bringing somebody home drunk, making noise? Is
It's
it that
true.
big of a request? you're walking into this and then people get surprised. Oh, so and so got upset and, I'm sleeping on the couch. Well, that's cause and effect.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
So what would I say to her? Time to grow up. Either you accept the person that you're in a relationship with, warts and all, same thing about you, vice versa. And both of you start to actually work on the issues, or prepare yourself to go through these issues again and again and again, because it's not coincidental that you're going through it again and again and again. What does it mean? Your approach to understanding the issues isn't actually helping. There's a communication issue. People are
Yeah.
withholding information, and your methodology to resolve the issues or to manage them is obviously shit.
Yeah. Okay. So I have one last question for you. Why is this your favorite episode?
Oh, it's that line that the therapist says when she talks about understanding.
It's something like,
Oh,
I hear that.
yeah, no, that is, yeah. It does. I'm laughing right now as you're saying it. I, no, I identify with that therapist, on that topic, obviously.
Yeah.
Everybody has their preferences. We could say that. I think it was just a very relatable moment. And those are the moments that I like most about my job, when I am speaking with a client and we get into it. And it really feels like a lot of times I'm speaking with a friend as opposed to a patient. And that doesn't mean that I'm being unethical in that moment, but I get so connected and involved in the work that I kind of sometimes forget about how we actually met. And maybe that's not so important. Maybe it is more about the connection. But I think in that exchange between Samantha and that therapist, I think they probably would have had a very good therapeutic relationship if they would have worked together.
I agree. Yeah.
And maybe
Okay.
they did, and we just didn't know.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for your time, Justin. Anything you want to say about how you work and how people can find you before we let you go?
Sure. I work online, so I work with couples all over the world in a given day. Work with a lot of couples who actually don't even live in the same country, but everybody logs online at the same time. All of my sessions are based on London time zone, so either BST or GMT. Uh, and if you would like to reach out, you can Google my name and find one of my books, or send me a WhatsApp message, or send me an email through one of my websites. But know that in most circumstances, change is possible. And so if you are looking for something that actually makes a difference, come find me. I'd love
Okay,
to help
I'll
you.
pop your website in the show notes so people can reach out.
Mhm. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Justin. It was a pleasure to
You're
see you
welcome.
today.
Igualmente. Take care of
Bye.
yourself. Bye.